Sometimes you have to let people down to be the person you're supposed to be. Those are the words of musician Ben Folds in his recent memoir, A Dream About Lightning Bugs, A Life of Music and Cheap Lessons. Ben is currently on tour for his newest album, What Matters Most. It's a theater tour, and it's actually stopping here in Austin as part of a Texas four-step on Wednesday, October 18th at the Paramount Theater. Aren't a ton of tickets left, but for those that do remain, you can grab them at austintheater.org. Ben, thank you for the time. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I see that you are just finishing off a theater tour that is in cahoots with your new album, What Matters Most. I guess it's
Yes.
fitting that you finish off this tour with a Texas four-step, as it were. Houston,
Yeah.
Austin, San Antonio, and Dallas. How's the tour been going so far?
Yeah, it's all been going. I mean, there's been different phases to it. I had a band out for a while. Some of these I've done solo, and some of them have been with orchestras. So the new album has now kind of been performed in an array of arrangements and ways. It's you learn a lot about a song by doing that.
Do you have a favorite arrangement to perform this new album through?
I don't. I think that the nights that are on in their own unique ways, and the ones that aren't as on um which I feel like for recently for touring, not as on is it's been really good. Like they've it's been really good. But yeah, it just depends on it. I don't have a favorite. No, that's the best way to say it.
Well, you've created a lot of great music over the years, and What Matters Most is no different. What do you like most about What Matters Most as compared to some of your other music?
Well, it's hard to describe, but I mean, I think there's a thing that we chase as recording artists, which is, I think that I would speak for my homies as well. That we make a something we tried to do, and you go, gosh, that wasn't quite there. Some things happened that I didn't expect. That's nice, but I really feel like I'm going to need to make another one, and really got like a bit like a gambler or something. Like I think I'm going to have to roll the dice again, try to get this right. And I feel like on this record, like a number of things that would be very hard for me to describe came together. Um, and that's as articulate about it as I can be. I think when you make a record, you should be making something that's just beyond your ability. And when you pass that window, you could never make that record again.
Mm.
So anyone that wants you to make that record again, if you actually can, it was because the record's not good enough. Like if you're whoever, whatever the band you are, the Beatles, like the records that they made are all very different. They couldn't have remade those. And so this one is like that. But there's a less of a sense of me to wanting to correct it, if that makes any sense.
No, it
I
does.
feel like it's more there's something very direct about it. And yeah, and I didn't give a damn either. I mean, it's really nice to not give a flying crap. It's awesome. I love it.
I think that's a key to life, actually, is learning to care significantly less about what those around you think about things, as long
Right.
as what you're doing, you don't want to be too selfish about it, because you do want to make this world about how you're able to give back to others too. But as soon as
Yeah.
you can tune out the criticism, you can truly become the fullest version of yourself.
I think we can detach. I've noticed like a lot of my sort of, you know, friends outside of music that are in arts, especially visual stuff like theater, for instance, they're used to taking notes. When I say taking notes, they're used to accepting
Mm.
people's criticism and then incorporating that into their piece. We musicians are far less like that. I don't send out to a damn focus group for my stuff, and I don't care what someone tells me I should or shouldn't do. But I think it's a healthier state to actually be able to hear it and accept as much as you can, and just have the confidence to hold your own when you need to. And I think those things are kind of helpful. I mean, I think this record, perhaps one of the things that worked about it for me was that the entire, the band, the sort of team around recording the record weren't all yes men at all. Tall Heights were like, they had a lot of criticisms or suggestions or things that they thought could be better. And I would take them on board if I believed them. And if I didn't, I didn't. And some of the things that they said, like in retrospect, would make people laugh. They'd be like, seriously, they wanted to change that. That's my favorite part. But other things that they were saying actually was very, very helpful and useful to me. I either took it on board completely or I just took part of their idea. And to compartmentalize or to be able to detach yourself from comments and criticism is different from ignoring it, if that makes sense. And I think that I did a little bit of the middle ground on this one. I mean, like I say, what I mean by I don't give a crap is really is partially like, look, you don't like that part. What don't you like about it? Okay. Oh, I guess I could explain that better. Fine. Glad you said so. And then that's fine. Or it could be like, no, you don't get it. Sorry, get out of here. Like either way is fine with me. Before I think I would be more in turmoil about those things. And, I realized too that albums are just a drop in the bucket. I mean, life is short. You make the best that you can, you move on. I used to look at it as a, a much more serious state of affairs. And I think sort of decoupling myself from it allowed me to work on it a lot more intensely, actually.
That's interesting to hear you say that, because you have a reputation for a willingness to say no to the game that you're supposed to be playing as a musician with the major record labels. You talk at length about that in your excellent memoir from a couple of years ago, A Dream About Lightning Bugs. But it sounds like your evolution as somebody who is naturally good at putting your foot down and saying, no, I'm not going to compromise my artistic integrity here, is more of a willingness to listen to where that criticism is coming from and to take it into consideration before you'd shut it down for good.
That's been my evolution. I'll still shut it down. But I think before, if I heard a comment or a criticism, I would bristle. But what have you got to bristle from? Who gives a goddamn? Like really, like I understand why we bristle, but you don't need to be defensive, and you don't need to, and if you can't hear it anymore, then don't. You can always just shut it down. If okay, I'm a little fragile now. I can't have people, I can't listen to this, then shut it down. I mean, the cool thing to say is that we never read our reviews. I know many people who admit to reading the reviews, and yet I have a feeling that most of us aren't being truthful with that, or that they don't care about them. I just bristle a lot less. I mean, look, someone could say there was an anecdote about an author, and I don't know who the author is, but the story was told to me, and it works. He put out a book, and then he got 2 letters in the mail one day about the book. One said, "This is the worst crap you've ever written," and the other said, "This is the most amazing thing I've ever read." And he wrote back to both of them the same response: "You may be right." Awesome. That's where you should think of it. Yeah, sure.
That's a great
You
response.
may be right. But if you can decouple yourself from it, then you can actually get to the business of being intense about it. And as you get older, you get quietly intense. Like Frank Lloyd Wright said about how he was more, when he was in the 70s, he said he was far more rebellious than he had been younger. It's just he wasn't loud about it anymore. He was now quiet about it. He didn't need to be branded as the rebel. He just did it.
Oh, that's so interesting. So one of the reasons why I loved your memoir from a couple of years ago is your openness with talking about the creative process. And one of my favorite lines has to do with that from your book. The real secret to creativity is to be free from prejudice, to commit yourself to the process of making mistakes, and to recognize the value of exploration and experimentation. Don't be afraid to go out on a limb or even saw it off behind you. Love that line. To feel free to take a leap, you have to be okay with letting go of what you're clinging to. Has it become more difficult to explore and experiment over time because you've done so much of it throughout your life and career?
Well, we can get caught up in the trap of wanting to reinvent to an unnecessary level too. You just go with, gosh, we go through phases. Like you see pictures of yourself and you're like, who the hell was that? Other times you're kind of like, I kind of came back to that. Like I can see some kid pictures and I go, damn, I'm kind of in that mood now. Like I've kind of come back to that. Maybe I'll make music like I did when I was 10. It's okay if you're going backwards sometimes. I think the whole thing is like doing who you are at the moment better than you can even imagine, and to just do that. And if that means you've reinvented, awesome. But I don't think one should feel that because they've done something again that's off limits to them. You might, look at the career of someone like Burt Bacharach, where we know a popular song of his, like "Raindrops Keep Falling on Your Head." I happen to know that because I covered it for Burt Bacharach on a TV show, and he told me about this. He'd written 3 versions of that song, and they were released prior to that being a hit, and then they were flops.
Huh.
There's the same song. Like it had some things changed, lyrics changed a little bit, key, form, stuff. It's just, but it was not even the same titles, but they were cut from the same cloth. He was looking for a shape, and he tried one thing, he tried another, and then boom, it caught. For whatever reason, it caught. Now, if he had been someone that's like really concerned with that he was repeating himself, or if he'd been concerned about how he appeared to people, like, oh, you're just standing in one place. Maybe you're not standing in one place and everyone thinks that's the problem with listening to people. And I don't want to be someone who's like trying to radically reinvent myself every 5 minutes any more than I want to be someone that's the same. I want to make what's honest and what makes me feel something. And to me, it's always been a little bit about what seemed like I was getting away with something. For some reason, that's the way I have to frame it. Like I'm breaking the law. So when I make something that has to be like the parents have left, there are no grown-ups, and I just got away with murder.
Do you have your own version of Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head? Something that you wrote and performed initially and it wasn't quite right just yet, but 2 or 3 iterations later, you finally got it like you wanted to, and it turned out to be a commercial success as well?
No, I haven't. But I have done, some songs have been obviously cut from similar cloths. And I've had themes, I think I kept on. It didn't culminate in, oh, I can stop that now because it's become popular. It was more like, well, I guess that's my last gas. I'm done. Like I joke about breakup songs. It's like before I played the song called "So There," I often say I thought I was done with breakup songs, but I had to write one more. Of course, there's usually a little chuckle because they assume that means that I broke up again. But really what that means is that for all the breakup songs I'd written, I suddenly realized that there was an angle that I hadn't considered. And I needed to write a song with that angle intact. And I think it's that as you grow older, mature some, you realize that breakups don't happen in vacuums. And your version of what they are when you're emotionally, just kind of all over the map as a kid, and you're just inward. You think that they're in vacuums, but when you get older, you're like, well, look, I'm gonna have to move now, and who's gonna move? I guess I have to move, so I'm gonna take my stuff. And that's big, because someone's growing new emotional limbs where they haven't had them before, by having to now decide where to put the paintings on the wall. Haven't had to do that in 5 years or something. And so breakups become, so I just decided I would do that. And it wasn't like, oh, I need to perfect the idea of a breakup song. It was just like, okay, I always tell myself I'm not going to write any more songs with people's names in them. I tell myself I'm not going to write songs with dirty words in them. I tried so hard on this record. I didn't want an explicit sticker. I tried, and I got it down to 1. And so here we are again. I have an album with a naughty sticker on it again, and I didn't want it.
That's not the end of the world. Some of my favorite.
It's not the end of the world, but I did try,
Hey, at least you tried. The effort is a big part of what matters, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So Ben, you're obviously most known for your solo stuff and also your work with benfoldsTV. But I have to give you credit for a couple of things that I've loved over the years that you were a major part of. One is your cameo as yourself in seasons 3 through 5 of You're the Worst, playing a drunk version of yourself. Hilarious performance there. But I also loved, and I didn't even realize this until doing research over the last couple of days, that you were the producer of William Shatner's 2004 album Has Been. People think I'm kidding when I say this. His cover of the Pulp's Common People is one of my all-time favorite covers. Even though you don't perform on that song, you perform on a number of other songs. Shatner himself is great on that album. There's a ton of really cool cameos as well, yourself included. Just how much fun was it to get to work on that project almost 20 years ago?
I produced and essentially co-wrote that record, arranged everything. It was a very much a collaboration. I didn't care to frame it as such because I felt like my job was to highlight and frame the stories of an already then older actor who we hadn't heard from. Like we've heard him be other people, but we hadn't heard about his life. And this was a chance for him to do that. Um, when it came to Common People, yeah, I played bass guitar on that.
Okay.
And we assembled kind of a punk band, which was a little awkward because I had to kind of send with the best studio drummer of our generation home for that day, who would have preferred to play it on the song. And I got a friend of mine who's a punk rock player who's in advertising. He came in, took his suit and tie off, went just like in his underwear, no shirt, played his balls off, put it all back on, and went back to a meeting. And we were talking to David Bowie's management about David Bowie being his partner on this, and it just wasn't working out. And Joe Jackson was already there, and I started to think, this might be better. And Joe killed it. But I had to talk Shatner into that song. He didn't want to do it.
What convinced him?
Me, I'm stubborn.
Well, I appreciate that because I didn't even know about the Pulp's version of the song, and since then I've learned to jam out to the Pulp's version of that song too. That's a great song.
So good. Well, the thing is, I used to tell people that's one of the best pop songs I've ever heard, and it's also the most eloquently explained class difference song. And we don't bite that stuff off as much in America. So that song didn't get anywhere over here. But I just took that, and that's what I told Shatner. I was like, look, you can introduce people to a great song. Who gets to do that? Like, they'll listen to you doing that. They'll hear your version first. And this is an amazing opportunity because I know this song is great. And even people in England are like, I don't know which version I like better. I like them both. It's huge.
That's great to hear. Considering all the stuff that you've done, I don't see a whole lot of musical credits on your Wikipedia page. That is theatrical musicals. Do you have any plans to maybe get into the musical world before it's all said and done, Ben?
Well, it's something that I have toyed with since 98 or 99. And it's just, and I've made, since the early 2000s, I've made good friends with people who soon after we started working on things began to get all the Tonys and do everything. And I think I'm getting closer. A producer friend of mine who is a legend in the musicals business, I suggested an idea after 15 years of a drought of anything. And he's like, well, I'm glad we waited these 15 years. I told you I was patient. Let's do this. So we may be moving forward with it. I got some good news on it today. And, it's all going to be kind of NDA material until we can get the rights. But once we get the rights to this piece, I think it's pretty great. And I don't care if it's successful or not particularly. I just want to make sure I make something great.
Well, that's exciting. Will you just be creating the music for this musical, or do you plan on acting in it as well?
No, I won't act in it. But when I tell you who wants to act in it, eventually when this all comes to light, people are gonna be like, "Oh shit!" It's gonna be so good. Like I'm really excited about it. It's a very difficult. It's going to be a difficult piece, and it's going to require really good, careful, crafted songwriting to make it work. It's very ambitious, and also it's very small in scale. You're talking about probably one person on the stage the entire time.
Oh, wow.
But I'm very excited about it. So inspired even. So yeah, that's the best I can do until we know what we're doing and I know what I'm allowed to say. But I wouldn't want to throw anyone off the project right now by being presumptive and speaking.
No, please be as vague as you need to. All right, last question, Ben, because I am speaking with you here in Austin, Texas, which obviously has a reputation as being a pretty good place to check out live music, amongst other
All
things.
right.
Do you have a favorite memory from getting to perform in Austin for all these years?
Oh, Austin was one of the first places that we could draw a crowd. They got our music. It was Austin, Providence, Rhode Island, Chicago, London. Like you're in good company. Like the cool places. And we started getting, and so I have very early memories of moving my piano myself, grand piano with another guy onto the various stages in Austin, and then if I had time, which I often didn't, to get my ass over to the record store,
Waterloo.
Waterloo. Yes, Waterloo. Yeah, because I think that's one of the best record stores in the world, and so I always want to go over there. Tell me it's not out of business.
Waterloo is still there, still going strong, even with all of the you've got the Whole Foods Caddy Corner now and 24 Diner right next door. But no, Waterloo is still going strong.
Good. Well, I think that was a brilliant store, a very musical place. I always loved it. So yeah, I mean, if I have time, I'll get to go over there too.
Not surprised to hear you cite Waterloo Records. He is Ben Folds. Check out the new album, What Matters Most, and there aren't a ton of tickets available at the Paramount for the Wednesday, October 18th show, but just go to austintheater.org. Check just to make sure. I'm sure it is going to be a hell of a good time. Ben, thank you so much for the time today, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Good to talk to you.
Thanks to Gentleman Jesus for the intro and outro music. Hear more of his work at gentlemanjesus.com. And thanks to you for hanging out. For more of the show and to connect on social media, visit booksonpod.com. We'll talk to you next time on Books on Pod.